My name is Julia Bennett. I'm 33 years old. And the moment everything in my life finally made sense was the exact same moment I realized I had already been preparing to leave long before I ever admitted it to myself. Not loudly, not dramatically, just precisely. I work as an IT project manager for a healthcare software company downtown. My world is built on systems, on logic, structure, things behaving the way they're supposed to. Problems have steps. Solutions have sequences. There's comfort in that. Clarity. For a long time, I believed relationships could work the same way. Taryn Hale was the opposite of me in every way that felt exciting at first. Warm, expressive, the kind of man who could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with half of them laughing and the other half remembering his name. He worked in hotel sales, fast-paced, high energy, built on charm and presence. We balanced each other. At least, that's what I told myself. We had a real life together, shared groceries, weekend errands, favorite restaurants, the kind of ordinary future that feels solid until one sentence cracks it in half. The last few months had been off. More late nights, more client dinners that somehow stretched past midnight, more moments where I asked simple questions and got treated like I was interrogating him. His favorite phrase was, "You're making this weird." If I asked why his location was suddenly turned off, I was making it weird. If I asked why a work dinner required cologne he usually saved for special occasions, I was making it weird. If I asked why his phone was suddenly always face down, same answer. After a while, I stopped asking, because I already knew what that phrase meant. It meant I was getting too close to something he didn't want examined. The confession happened on a Thursday night at an Italian place downtown. He had texted that afternoon, said we needed to talk in person, that it was serious. I got there first. He showed up late, sat down, folded his hands like he was about to negotiate something instead of destroy it. And then he said, "I need to tell you something before someone else does." That was the first signal. Not guilt. Not honesty. Control. Then he said it. I kissed my boss, more than once, and I lied about it. I didn't react right away. I just looked at him. And he kept talking. Because silence makes guilty people nervous. He said it started after a corporate event in January, then admitted the flirting started before that. Then he said the sentence that ended everything for me. I was going to tell you after promotion decisions came out. I didn't want everything blowing up at once. That was the real confession. Not the cheating. The planning. He had already mapped out my role in his timeline. I was supposed to wait politely while he secured his future, and then receive the truth on a schedule that worked for him. That's when something in me went completely still. So I nodded once, and I said, "Then you're single." No yelling. No tears. Just that. He blinked, then laughed like I had misunderstood the situation. "Julia, be serious." "I am," I said. Then came the cleanup version. It didn't mean anything. She's married. It's complicated. I felt guilty. I told you because I respect you. I thought we could work through it. I let him finish. Then I reached into my purse, put money on the table for the drinks we hadn't touched, and stood up. "You should call one of your friends tonight," I said calmly. "Your code will stop working in an hour." By the time I reached my car, I had 6 missed calls. By the time I got home, 12. I didn't listen to any of them. I already knew what they would sound like. A mix of panic, blame, and revision. When I got inside, I didn't collapse. I didn't cry. I started packing. Not emotionally. Methodically. Closet first. Then bathroom. Then the small office space he had slowly taken over without ever asking. Then the kitchen shelf, his protein powders, supplements, the coffee blends he kept insisting I should try. I used storage boxes from downstairs, the same ones I had neatly labeled months ago, just in case. Looking back, I think a part of me always knew. At 9:14 p.m., I texted him, "Your things are packed. I'll leave them with concierge tomorrow between 10 and 2. Do not come up tonight." He called instantly. I declined. At 9:26, I contacted the front desk and explained the situation, that my now ex-boyfriend might try to come upstairs. They asked for confirmation. I sent screenshots. Proof. At 9:31, his access was revoked. At 10:07, my phone started lighting up. Lobby buzzer. Doorbell camera. Call after call. Someone had let him into the building. Through the camera, I watched him pound on my door hard enough to shake the frame. "Julia!" he shouted. Then the crying. Then the softer version. "So that's it? 3 years and you won't even look at me?" I pressed the speaker button. "You already had my attention," I said. "You spent it." There was a pause. Then anger. Then more pleading. I called downstairs. Security came up. He left before they arrived, but not before kicking my doormat on the way out. The camera caught everything. The next morning, concierge released his things. 6 boxes, 2 suitcases, a garment bag, and a framed photo he had hung in my hallway without asking. He signed for everything. At 10:18, he texted, "I hope you're happy." I didn't respond, because happiness had nothing to do with it. This wasn't about feeling better. It was about seeing clearly. And once you see something clearly, you can't unsee it. I thought that would be the end. It wasn't. The first person to contact me wasn't Taryn. It was one of his closest friends, Miles, texting from a number I didn't recognize. "At least he told you the truth," the message said. "Most people never get that." I stared at it for a moment, almost impressed by how quickly the story had been polished. I replied once. He kissed his boss more than once and planned to keep lying until it fit his schedule. Then I blocked that number too. For the next few days, Taryn tried on different versions of himself. Angry Taryn sent paragraphs about how cold I was. Sad Taryn emailed saying he had nowhere stable to stay, even though I already knew he was at his friend Carter's apartment because Carter had posted a photo of them drinking on his balcony. Practical Taryn sent me a payment request for shared groceries and utilities. I declined it with one note. Living rent-free for months covered more than enough. Then came the email at 1:13 a.m. Subject line, "Please don't reduce us to my worst mistake." It was long. Stress. Alcohol. Blurred boundaries. His boss, Elena Voss, making him feel seen during a difficult season. How he believed our foundation was strong enough to survive the truth. But that was the problem. He still thought my love was a structure he could damage and then ask me to repair. He told the truth because he thought confession would preserve access. That bothered me more than the kiss. He still believed my home, my patience, my time, and my forgiveness were things he could negotiate. 2 days later, he tried the building again. The front desk called me because Taryn had followed another resident through the side entrance and made it to my floor with a folded note in his hand. I watched him on the hallway camera. He tucked the note into my doorframe and knocked twice. softly this time, like softness changed the trespassing. The note said, "I still think we can fix this if you stop being stubborn." That sentence was worse than the cheating. The cheating was selfish. This was entitlement. I handed the note to the night manager and asked her to add it to the incident report. Having someone neutral see the pattern helped. It meant I wasn't imagining how quickly regret had turned into pressure. At work, things were moving in the opposite direction. My company was preparing a major internal systems migration, and my director pulled me into the planning meetings because she trusted me with the timeline. I stayed late for reasons that actually mattered. I got back into early morning runs. I slept through the night. Quiet returned so quickly, it almost felt suspicious. Then, Taryn called my office line. Not my cell. My office line. Reception transferred him before realizing who he was. The second I heard his voice, I hung up. 30 seconds later, he emailed my work address, claiming he had called there by accident because his number was blocked, which meant he knew exactly what he was doing. I forwarded everything to HR and my manager Elise with one sentence: unwanted personal contact, documenting in case it continues. Elise called me into her office, asked if I needed anything, and told me that if he showed up in person, security would handle it.
Calm. Adult.
No drama. The part that changed my thinking happened 2 nights later. At 11:42 p.m., Taryn left a voicemail. His voice was low, too calm. "I know you're home because your kitchen lights are on," he said. "I just want 5 minutes. Don't make me stand out here like this." I checked the lobby camera. He had been sitting in his car across from visitor parking for almost 20 minutes. That was when I stopped treating it like a messy breakup and started treating it like evidence. One more thing happened during that first week that stayed with me. Taryn emailed asking for a final dinner in a public place. For closure. Same restaurant chain. Different location. As if changing the branch made it a different conversation. He said he wanted to apologize face-to-face and return a bracelet I had supposedly left in his bag. I hadn't left a bracelet anywhere. It was bait. I answered with one sentence: leave anything that belongs to me with concierge. He never produced the bracelet. Because there wasn't one. There was also the social pressure side of it. People love neat categories.
Cheater. Victim. Villain. Forgiver.
Taryn wanted to move himself immediately from cheater to brave confessor. And a few people were happy to help because that story sounded kinder, more modern, more compassionate. But confession without accountability is just strategy. Once I realized that, every message from him sounded the same. Not love. Not grief. Control wearing different clothes. The week after the office incident, HR finished documenting everything. Elise told me plainly that if Taryn came to the building, they would call security first and me second. That sounded small. But when someone keeps trying to drag your private pain into your professional life, having competent people quietly lock it down feels like oxygen. I stopped glancing toward the lobby every time the elevator opened. My friend Aubrey deserves more credit than a single paragraph. She never played therapist or detective. She just stayed steady. One evening, while we sat on her kitchen floor eating takeout straight from the containers, she asked, "Are you still waiting for him to restart the situation?" The question landed harder than I expected. Because yes, even after the locks changed, after the reports, after the blocked numbers, some part of me still expected my phone to light up or my doorbell to buzz. I was living like peace was temporary. Aubrey didn't fix that. She just named it. And once it had a name, it started shrinking. The next morning, I went to the police substation near downtown and filed a report. I brought everything. The confession screenshot. The repeated messages after I told him not to contact me. The note at my door. The work email. The voicemail about my lights being on. The officer told me the report established a timeline and advised me to send one final direct instruction in writing. So I did. At 12:09 p.m., I texted, "Do not contact me again by phone, email, work, or through other people. Any further contact will be documented." 8 minutes later, he replied, "So now I'm dangerous?" I didn't answer. For about a day, nothing happened. Then the flying monkeys returned. First was Travis, a man from Taryn's office I had met maybe twice. He messaged me on LinkedIn saying Taryn felt like I had never let him explain the full story and that closure might help us both. I replied, "The full story was enough the first time. Do not contact me again about him." Then I blocked him. That same night, Aubrey sent me a screenshot of Taryn's social post. No names, of course. Just a long paragraph about how some people punish honesty and abandon you the moment you become vulnerable. The comments were exactly what you'd expect. So strong. She didn't deserve your honesty. Some women can't handle emotional truth. One mutual friend texted me privately and asked if there was more to it. I sent the confession screenshot. He replied, "Never mind." 3 days later, Taryn showed up at my office with flowers. Reception called upstairs and said, "There's a man here asking for Julia." I looked down from the stairwell. There he was, holding a white bouquet and wearing the careful, harmless version of himself. I told reception, "That's my ex. Please ask him to leave. If he refuses, call security." He refused. So security walked him out while he cried loudly enough for the whole lobby to hear. I was honest, and she punished me for it. Security issued a trespass warning. HR documented it. I added it to the folder. That evening, Taryn's mother Denise called me. I expected guilt. Instead, she said, "Julia, I need to know if his story is changing, because none of this sounds right." I told her the truth. He told me he kissed his boss more than once and lied about it. Then he came to my home, my work, and sat outside my condo after I told him not to contact me. Denise went silent. Then she said he had told her it was one drunken mistake and that I threw him out with nothing. I told her he left the next morning with 6 boxes, 2 suitcases, a garment bag, and a signed concierge release. She sighed. "You won't hear from me again," she said. And I didn't. A week later, I ran into Taryn at a coffee shop. Or he ran into me. Because nobody wears the jacket you once bought them and stands right beside the pickup counter by accident. He said my name. I turned. His eyes were already wet. "Elena was never worth this," he said. "This isn't about Elena." For half a second, he looked hopeful. Then I finished. "It's about you thinking confession erased the choice." I took my coffee and headed for the door. Outside, he followed me and caught my sleeve. Not hard. Just enough. I pulled my arm back. "Don't touch me again." That was it for me. I drove straight home and called a lawyer. The consultation cost $300. I remember that number because it felt precise, contained, like something I could measure, unlike everything else that had been happening. The lawyer's office smelled faintly like paper and coffee. Neutral. Controlled. I liked that. I laid everything out. Screenshots, call logs, emails, the note, the voicemail transcript, the incident reports from my building, the HR documentation, the trespass warning.
A timeline.
Because that's what this had become. Not a relationship. Not even a breakup.
A pattern.
He read through everything without interrupting, occasionally making small notes in the margins, like he was editing something that had already been decided. When he finally looked up, his voice was calm. "You've done the hardest part already," he said. "You documented early." That sentence landed differently than anything else I'd heard all week. Not sympathy. Not validation.
Recognition.
He explained my options. If the behavior stopped, the report would just sit there, a record. If it continued, I had enough for a civil no-contact order. He also suggested something immediate.
A cease and desist letter. Formal. Clear. Difficult to reinterpret.
I agreed. He drafted it while I sat there, listening to the quiet hum of the office printer, feeling something inside me settle into place. By the time I left, I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was directing. The letter went out the next morning. Certified mail. Signed. Delivered. For about 5 days, nothing happened. No calls. No emails. No messages from unknown numbers. No shadows sitting in visitor parking. It was quiet in a way that felt unfamiliar. Like walking into a room you used to share and realizing the air had changed. I didn't relax. Not completely, but I allowed myself to exhale a little. At work, the system migration project moved into its critical phase. Long hours, tight deadlines, constant problem solving. The kind of pressure I understood. The kind that made sense. My manager, Elise, started looping me into higher-level decisions, not just execution, but strategy. It felt earned. Clean. And then, on the 6th day, the email came. New address. No name attached. Subject line. You forced me to defend myself. I read it once. Then again, the tone had shifted. No more pleading. No more apology. Now it was controlled. Measured.
Cold.
If you keep making me look unstable, it said, I will tell people about your controlling behavior, your emotional withholding, the way you isolate and manipulate. I stared at the screen for a long time. Because there it was. The pivot. He wasn't trying to come back anymore. He was trying to rewrite. Turn the story. Make himself the victim. Make me the reason. And for a second, just a second, I felt that old instinct. The one that wanted to explain. To defend. To correct the narrative. But I didn't. Because that instinct was exactly what he was counting on. Instead, I forwarded the email to my lawyer. Then I added it to the folder. Evidence. Not emotion. That was the moment something in me changed completely. I stopped worrying about how I looked. I stopped worrying about whether I seemed harsh, or cold, or unforgiving, because this wasn't about perception anymore. It was about pattern. 3 days later, he showed up again. Not at my home. Not at my office. A coffee shop. Different one this time, but the same tactic.
Familiar ground. Controlled environment.
Public enough to create a scene. Private enough to corner me. I saw him before he saw me. Or maybe he wanted me to think that. Either way, I didn't leave. I stayed exactly where I was. Ordered my drink. Waited. Because I wasn't going to rearrange my life around his unpredictability. When he approached, he didn't smile, didn't soften, just stood there. "You're really going through with this?" he asked. His voice was low, almost steady. "I already did," I said. He exhaled sharply. All of this, over one mistake? There it was again.
Reduction. Minimization.
I met his eyes. "This isn't about the kiss," I said. "It's about you deciding I would wait for your version of the truth." His jaw tightened. "You're acting like I didn't come clean. You came clean when it was convenient. That's not fair." "No," I said quietly. "What you did wasn't fair." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The noise of the coffee shop filled the space between us. Machines steaming milk, people talking, cups clinking. Normal life, happening around something that no longer belonged in it. "You're making me look like a monster," he said finally. I tilted my head slightly. "I'm not making you look like anything." That landed. I could see it. Because for the first time, he didn't have a response ready. He wasn't controlling the direction anymore. He reached for my arm. Not aggressively, just enough to stop me from turning away. But that was enough. I stepped back immediately. "Don't touch me again." My voice didn't rise, but something in it closed. People nearby glanced over. Not dramatic, just aware. He dropped his hand, and in that moment, I saw it. Not regret, not love.
Frustration.
Because this wasn't going the way he expected. Because I wasn't playing my role anymore. I picked up my drink, walked past him, didn't look back. That night, I called my lawyer. "I want to file," I said. He didn't ask me to explain. He already knew. The hearing was 5 weeks later. Courtrooms don't feel the way people expect them to. There's no music, no dramatic pauses, no moment where everything suddenly makes sense. Just fluorescent lighting, rows of chairs, and the quiet rustling of paper as people wait for their names to be called. It felt procedural, which, in a strange way, made it easier. Because this wasn't about emotions anymore. It was about record. Taryn arrived 10 minutes before the hearing. Navy shirt, hair neatly styled, expression carefully neutral. A version of himself designed to look reasonable.
Manageable.
His lawyer sat beside him, flipping through a folder that looked thinner than mine. I didn't look at him. Not because I couldn't, because I didn't need to. When our case was called, we stepped forward. My lawyer spoke first. No theatrics. Just facts. A timeline laid out with precision. The confession. The repeated contact after I told him not to. The note at my door. The work email. The voicemail about my lights being on. The office trespass warning. The cease and desist letter. The follow-up email threatening to defend himself. Each piece placed exactly where it belonged. No emotion. Just sequence. Taryn's lawyer followed. Her tone was measured.
Controlled.
"My client made a difficult admission in good faith," she said. Miss Bennett reacted by abruptly ending the relationship. Since then, there have been attempts at closure that were misinterpreted as harassment.
Closure.
That word again. As if persistence could be reframed as sincerity. As if ignoring a boundary made it negotiable. The judge didn't respond immediately. She read.
Quietly.
For a long time. Long enough that the room itself seemed to settle. Then she looked up. At Taryn. "Did you continue contacting her after being told explicitly not to?" There was a pause. just a fraction too long. He tried to answer carefully. To provide context. "That's not my question," the judge said, cutting in. The room went still. He tried again. "Yes, but—" "That's enough." 2 words.
Clean. Final.
She turned to me. "Did you invite any of this contact after your final message?" "No." "Do you believe it would continue without intervention?" "Yes." No elaboration. No explanation. Just truth. The judge nodded once. Then she spoke. The no contact order was granted. 1 year. No approaching my home. No approaching my workplace. No contact directly or through third parties. Just like that. Not dramatic. Not loud. But absolute. For the first time since that dinner, everything stopped. Not emotionally.
Legally. Officially.
I glanced at Taryn then. Just once. He wasn't looking at me. His eyes were fixed on the paperwork in front of him. Because this couldn't be rewritten. This couldn't be reframed. This was record. After the hearing, I stepped into the hallway. The air felt different. Lighter. Not because something had been restored, because something had been finalized. Karen's mother, Denise, was standing near the exit. She approached slowly.
Carefully.
"I'm sorry," she said. No defense. No explanation. Just that. I believed the version he gave me at first. I nodded. I understand. And I did. Because people believe what's easiest to hold. And the truth is rarely that. "That won't happen again," she added quietly. I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't need to. We both knew this was the end of any connection that had ever existed between us. After that, my life got smaller. In the best way.
Quieter. Clearer.
In July, I was promoted to senior project lead. Better hours. Better pay. More responsibility, but the kind that made sense. I replaced the couch in my living room. Repainted the spare bedroom. Got rid of the things that no longer felt like mine. Turned the space into something intentional. Something mine. And eventually, I started seeing someone. Not immediately. Not as a reaction. Just naturally. Aubrey invited me to a small gathering one evening, and that's where I met Ethan Cole. He wasn't loud. Wasn't performative. Didn't try to impress anyone. He just existed.
Steady. Present.
The kind of man who listened without waiting for his turn to speak. On our 3rd date, he asked me something simple. "Are you still expecting it to restart?" The question caught me off guard, because it was the same question Aubrey had asked weeks earlier. But this time, the answer was different. "No," I said. And I meant it. He nodded. Didn't press. Didn't analyze. Just accepted it. And that felt new. The last thing I heard about Taryn came secondhand. His boss, Elena, had faced consequences after everything surfaced internally. He didn't get the promotion he had been planning around. A few months later, he left the company entirely. I didn't ask where he went. Didn't care. Because it wasn't my life anymore. And that was the lesson. The confession wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the assumption behind it. He thought honesty, delivered late, on his terms, would obligate me to stay. To be understanding. To be patient. To be available. Like confession was a reset button. It wasn't. A confession is not a negotiation. It doesn't erase the choice. And it doesn't require the person you hurt to help you feel better about finally telling the truth. He handed me a fire and expected gratitude for the smoke. I didn't argue with it. I didn't try to contain it. I put it outside, locked the door, and kept living.